Today I'm going to be explaining 14 insane One Piece theories. There will be theories on what the One Piece treasure is, on the ancient weapons, what happened at God Valley, who JOYBOY was and how he fought, who the Next Strawhat is, and a few on Shanks' biggest mysteries. To make this video fun and straight to the point, I gave myself 60 seconds to explain each theory. Let's see if I can do it. Subscribe if you want to see a mega ancient kingdom theory that I'll be dropping within a month. Also, this video will contain spoilers for anime only watchers, and now, without further ado, let me tell you what I think the One Piece is. The One Piece treasure is a bronze statue of JOYBOY, and I can prove it. In chapter 704, we see a bronze statue of Kairos that perfectly parallels JOYBOY. Rebecca tells Luffy that the statue is of a legendary warrior, and that it's said that he was undefeated in 3,000 battles, and that his last battle was there in Dressrosa 20 years ago, yet somehow not a single person in the country remembers him or even met him. Maybe at Laugh Tale, Roger saw a statue of a legendary warrior named JOYBOY who fought in countless battles, yet no one in the world remembers him. After this, Rebecca says that the statue is the most mysterious statue in all of Dressrosa, and if Kairos the Gladiator was a real man or a fantasy. If you replace Kairos with JOYBOY, it perfectly goes along with the Roger pirates questioning if JOYBOY was a real man or a fantasy in a tale. Rebecca lastly says that the only information we have right now is the words carved in this plate, which parallels how the entire world lost its information on JOYBOY and the entire Void Century. The only information that may reveal who he truly is may be on a statue or poneglyph on Laugh Tale. Did you know that the original JOYBOY had Gear 4? In Wano, we see Hyogoro state that Luffy looks just like the God of Fire himself when he went into Gear 4. Now, you may be thinking, what even is the God of Fire? Well, the God of Fire is supposed to be something that looks like this big balloon at the Fire Festival. Now, in my opinion, this God of Fire is most likely supposed to be JOYBOY, and the Fire Festival is probably a tradition passed down from the Void Century. If these things are true, then that would mean that JOYBOY looked exactly like how Luffy looks when he goes into Gear 4, which means he most likely had Gear 4. To top this all off, we even see the Fire God Balloon doing the Gear 4 symbol when he puts 4 fingers up just like Luffy. Even more proof to JOYBOY having Gear 4 back in the day is the fact that we even see the same symbol of the 4 fingers on the Sun God sacrificial altar in Shandora. This altar seems to be based off of the real life Olmec traditions, and the word Olmecs literally means rubber people, yet again showing that the original rubber man had Gear 4. What if Kaido went to Marineford because he thought that Ace was JOYBOY? After defeating Luffy for the second time, he tells him, "You couldn't be JOYBOY either, it seems." He makes it seem as if he had hopes that someone other than Luffy was JOYBOY until they proved him wrong. I believe that this person was Ace, and that Ace's death made him realize that he was not JOYBOY. Kaido knew Oden was waiting for JOYBOY's return to Wano, and he also knew that Ace came to Wano and declared that he would return to defeat Kaido and save the land of Wano. Kaido was probably waiting for Ace's return, thinking that he'd be JOYBOY and that he'd be the one to defeat him until the Marineford incident occurred. Kaido probably went to Marineford to see if Ace was the real deal and to possibly even attempt to save him. Ace having the will of D and being the hotshot of his generation probably gave a lot of the old folks hope that he'd be the legendary JOYBOY. On top of this, if this is the case, then I wonder if Shanks stopped Kaido from heading to Marineford by convincing him that Ace is not JOYBOY since he knows that Luffy is. Also remember that the Marines say that Kaido was trying to kill Whitebeard, but I doubt that that was true since that's only a theory among the headquarters of the Marines. The ancient weapon Pluton is a ship made out of sea prism stone, and I can prove it. At the end of Wano, we learn that Pluton is under the earth beneath the old Wano. I personally think it's specifically right below the volcano of Wano, since the word Pluton means an igneous rock that forms by crystallization of magma slowly cooling below the surface of the earth. This means that the magma from Wano's volcano most likely created the rock that the ancient weapon is built of. And now to show you why sea prism stone is the plutonic rock in One Piece, so in Skypiea we learn that the substance called pyroblone comes from sea prism stone. But Guy says that pyroblone gets ejected into the air by volcanic eruptions, which proves that sea prism stone is made from volcanoes. We also know that sea prism stone comes from Wano, which means that it specifically comes from Wano's volcano, which is where Pluton seems to be located. Also, gold is found in the veins of plutonic rocks, and this is interesting since Wano used to be called the country of gold. Is it really a coincidence that the country where sea prism stone and Pluton originates was called the country of gold? I think I solved who the massive Florian Triangle monsters were. So the Florian Triangle location of the sea translates to the Devil's Triangle Zone. In Thriller Bark we learned that Oars was called the Devil, and I feel like his race may have been labeled as this since they are Onis or demons. So with this, what if the Devil's Triangle Zone is named that because it's the place where devils roam or live? Now I know Oars and Oars Jr. sizes don't seem to match up with the sizes of the Florian Triangle monsters, but if we take a look at Onigashima, some of the ancient giants could definitely get up to that size. If their skulls are even a quarter of the size size of Onigashima, their bodies should end up being as big as the monsters to these shadows. On top of this, we know that there must be a race of these ancient giants since we see proof of them with Ors Jr., and Onigashima. However, for some reason, we haven't seen any more. I wonder if this is because they all live in the Florian Triangle, and I mean, there has to be some explanation to how Ors Jr. was born. I really think Aokiji is a spy for Shanks. First of all, Aokiji seems to be a spy since Oda based him off of the character Shunsaku Kudo, who's an undercover detective or a spy. This is why I definitely think he's spying on the Blackbeard crew, and now here's why I think he's a spy for Shanks. So Oda recently revealed that Saul is actually alive and that he's hiding in Elbaf. I feel like there's a high chance Aokiji has visited his old friend in Elbaf at least once. And now, knowing that Shanks' territory is Elbaf, I believe that Saul is a close friend of Shanks, and that would mean that Aokiji may have also met Shanks and possibly even become friends with him. Saul could be the one who got them to get along and to work together. We also see that Aokiji says that from the start, I was never under the impression that the world government was the end-all be-all. This may show that from the start, he always had ties with Saul, the Elbaf, and possibly even the Shanks pirates. I don't find it a coincidence that the first time we learn of Aokiji's association with Blackbeard, Berg says that he doesn't trust him. This may foreshadow Aokiji's ultimate betrayal. I think there's a good chance Shanks meant to give Ace the Gomu Gomu no Mi. In case you forgot, Ace grew up on Dawn Island just like Luffy. Now, what if Shanks would go there to secretly watch over his captain's son and to make sure that he's safe? I mean, is it really a coincidence that he would make it his base for over a year? Why would he use Dawn Island, the most random island in the world of One Piece, as his base? I also don't find it a coincidence that Shanks specifically stole the Gum Gum fruit, and if anyone were to know the true name or power of that fruit, it would be Shanks or another Roger pirate. I feel like he stole it with the intention of giving it to someone else since he didn't eat it, and that person may have been Ace. We also see that Shanks is upset after Luffy ate the fruit, and this may be because it wasn't meant for him. We also see Roger say that he wants his son to be the one who's going to find the One Piece, which basically means that he wants his son to be Joy Boy, and Shanks was probably just trying to do what his captain wanted. Chapter 1086 proved that God Valley didn't disappear with the power of the Mother Flame, since the Gorosei state that the Lulusia incident was the first time they tested it. So if this wasn't the cause of God Valley's disappearance, well, then what was? Well, the first way could have been if Whitebeard used his Devil Fruit powers to completely destroy the island. I mean, he does have the power to destroy the world, right? The second way is if Shiki used his powers to float the island away. The third way is if Kaido picked up the island and floated it away using his flame clouds. The fourth way is if someone had Fujitori's gravity fruit and awakened it, which could have possibly allowed the island to float or levitate to the sky. The fifth way is if Whitebeard caused a knock-up stream by using his Devil Fruit powers. I believe that if he tried, he could probably do this since we know he can shift the continents and cause tsunamis. The sixth way is if Prime Garp used a Prime Galaxy Fist on the entire island and left it to exploding or being completely obliterated. There could be more ways it could have disappeared, but we'll need to first learn Rocks and Roger's full powers and everyone that was there. Vivi will be the 10th Straw Hats to join, and I think Oda already confirmed this back in Alabasta. At the very end of the arc, the Straw Hats leave Vivi with an X symbol on their raised arm. Knowing that X is the Roman numeral for the number 10, and that this symbol represents the Straw Hats' fellowship with Vivi, I believe that Oda purposely used this scene to foreshadow that the next time Vivi sees the Straw Hats, she's gonna be the 10th member to join. On top of this, I also think that she'll join during the Elbaf arc, because in case you forgot, Vivi was with the Straw Hats when they went to Little Garden, and the Giants consider her a part of the crew that saved their lives. They even tell Vivi that it's sad to see her go, but they hope that she saves her kingdom. The Giants consider Vivi a friend, and just like how her first island with the Straw Hats had Elbaf Giants on it, I think it'd be perfect if her first island after rejoining the Straw Hats also had Elbaf Giants on it. If you still think Vivi won't join the Straw Hats because she has a country to run, well, I personally think Koza is actually the best fit for that job, since Vivi herself calls him leader, possibly foreshadowing that he's going to be the leader of Alabasta instead of Vivi. The East Blue is known as the weakest sea in One Piece, and now, although it's called that, we never really learn why. When you consider that a lot of powerful people came out of there, like Garp, Roger, Dragon, Ace, Sabo, Yasop, Luffy, Zoro, Kobe, and Kaku, it really puts up the question, how did the East Blue get the reputation of being the weakest and tamest sea? Well, I saw a goated Reddit post that said what if every few years when Garp would check up on Ace and Luffy, he would beat the crap out of every decently menacing pirate and would throw them into Impel Down. This would make a ton of sense, however it seems like Shiki called the East Blue the weakest of seas even before Luffy or Ace was born, so my theory is that when Garp was a kid or a very young man, he fought all the evil pirates in the East Blue of his time and defeated them just like how Luffy did. This may have made the East Blue the weakest or tamest sea since there was pretty much no one left to make it menacing. I also think that after Garp became a big shot navy, he would take care of all the evil piracy in the East Blue every time he would visit his hometown. Overall, I'm trying to say that Garp might treat the East Blue in a similar way that Whitebeard treated Sphinx Island. Did you know that the monkey god HANUMAN can increase his body size in seconds just like Gear 3 and Gear 5 when Luffy becomes a giant? On top of this, Luffy even uses a move called Bajrangan Gun, which is a direct reference to HANUMAN. Now, you may be wondering, well, why does any of this matter? Well, this matters because with this, we may be able to figure out how the original Nika fought. So we see that Nika fought with the sword and with the mace. The silhouette of his mace looks almost exactly like HANUMAN's Gata, and I feel like it could be based off of it since Luffy is already based on HANUMAN. I wonder if Nika would infinitely stretch the Gata when he fought with it, just like how Goku uses his pole. Remember, Goku and his pole are based on Sun Wukong, who's also ultimately based on HANUMAN. I also wonder if Nika infinitely stretched out his sword in a similar way to Ichimaru's Bankai, and if that were true, then that'd mean that Joy Boy might have had the biggest and most destructive sword of all time. Ben Beckman took off Kid's arm and I can prove it. So in chapter 928, Kid reveals that he actually lost his arm in a battle with the red-haired pirates after Caribou claims that the rumors said he lost it from battling Big Mom. Now, most people think that Shanks himself was the one who did this. However, this seems to be not true at all, since when the Kid pirates reach Elbaf, Killer says that the last time they fought the red-haired crew, they didn't even get to see Shanks himself. Instead, Kid got beaten to a pulp and lost his arm before meeting Shanks. As Killer says this, we even see Kid grab his arm as he seems to be having PTSD. So now, if Shanks wasn't the one who did this, who could it have been, and why do I think it was Ben Beckman? Well, the reason for that is since in the same chapter we see Beckman say, "Our enemy must be furious," and then Lucky Roo responds, "Ha ha ha, that's rich coming from you, Beck. Who do you think he's mad at?" I feel like right here Beckman was saying that Kid must be furious at the red-haired crew since they took his arm, and then Roo is basically telling Beck that Kid's mad because he's the one who did it. I wonder if he shot his arm off using some crazy hockey bullets or just straight up ripped it off using his bare hands. Did you know that Shanks and Doflamingo's brother Corazon directly parallel each other with Luffy and Law's backstories? Shanks is the grown man that Luffy looked up to, while Corazon is the man who Law looked up to. Shanks steals one of the most important devil fruits in the story from the world government, and Luffy eats it. Corazon steals one of the most important devil fruits from the world government, and Law eats it. Shanks sacrifices his arm to save Luffy. Corazon sacrifices his body to save Law. Shanks gave Luffy the straw hat, while Law wears clothes that says Corazon on it. Luffy's pirate crew name is named after something Shanks gave him, which is the straw hat, while Law's crew name is named after Corazon and the devil fruit he gave him, since it's in the shape of a heart. Shanks is a good celestial dragon that helped the will of D, just like how Corazon is a good celestial dragon that helped the D. Shanks has a brother-like figure that is a clown and became a warlord. Corazon has a brother that depicts a clown since his nickname is Joker, who was a 7 warlord. I wonder if all of these parallels foreshadow that Shanks was always a celestial dragon. I really think an Orzer ancient giant from the Void Century was Joy Boy, and here's why. So I believe that the giant straw hat belonged to Joy Boy, and if you take a look at the giant straw hat scene, you'll notice that it perfectly parallels Orz's introduction scene, possibly hinting that one of the Orz ancestors was the owner of it. Emu walks into a giant freezer with a lock, just like how Moria walks into a giant freezer with a lock. Emu carries Luffy's bounty poster while Moria carries Luffy's shadow. At the end of Emu's freezer is the giant straw hat, and at the end of Moria's freezer is Orz. Also remember that Orz Jr. wore a straw hat, possibly foreshadowing yet again that a Void Century Orz owned the giant straw hat. On top of this, if you look at Luffy's shadow in the very scene that Orz is both introduced and paralleling the giant straw hat, you'll notice that this shadow is the exact pose of the sun god Nika silhouette in Luffy's Joy Boy pose. Even more evidence of Orz's family being connected to Joy Boy is the fact that Moria puts Luffy's shadow into Orz, which makes Orz have Luffy's personality, and he even obtains his Gum Gum moves. This may be a hint that an Orz from the Void Century had Joy Boy's personality and had the abilities of the Gumma Gumma no Mi. Now that pretty much wraps up the entire video, and now click on this video if you want to see the entire Orz's Joy Boy theory.